Hey guys, it's Seun. So in this tutorial, I'll just be showing you how I got this hair, which is a sewn with absolutely zero leave out and no closure either, just using my no leave out crochet method. So if you like this video, feel free to subscribe and I'll see you in the next clip. Okay, so the braid pattern is pretty simple. So you would part your hair in the middle and then you would braid 2 braids about this thickness, going straight back, as far back as you want your part to be. And then you're going to connect those 2 braids. After you connect those 2 braids, you can just braid your hair straight. After you've done like those 2 anchor braids that you're going to use for your crochet, you're just going to braid going down. You can make your braids however big or small you want. It doesn't really matter. So you braid 1 going all the way back, and then the next braid just doing the same thing. Then the next braid, a braid like that, and then you're back to your middle braid. Once I finished braiding that side, I came back over to the beginning on this side, and I just braided this braid going all the way back like that. And then, so another braid going back like so. And then another braid going back like so. It doesn't really matter how many braids you do, just do whatever works for you. The main thing that you need is for you to have 2 good sized braids in the middle or wherever you want your part to be, and then you want to connect them, and then everything else you just want to braid straight back, and you want to make sure that your braids along the side go along the perimeter. You want to have a smooth perimeter to sew on. So yeah, this will be the best braid pattern to use for this. Yeah. So once you finish doing your braids, if your hair is short, you'll probably be good to go. But if your hair is a little bit longer like mine, what I do is I just tuck the braids in between the cornrows. And this also helps it lay flat too, because like the surface is just completely flat, rather than I'm just grabbing all of the braids and like braiding them into one and then like sticking them up like that, like I know a lot of people do. I just like to tuck it in using bobby pins, and you're gonna keep these bobby pins in while you're sewing, but as you're sewing and as you sew down these braids, you can take the bobby pins out. Now for the sewing part. So after you've threaded your needle and tie off the bottom like that. So after you have your needle and thread good to go, you're going to grab your hair, and if it's rolled up like this, unroll it. For this install, I'm going to double weft everything, and that's just to make this process go faster. It really doesn't matter if you single or double weft. And by double wefting, I mean like instead of just sewing it on straight up like that, I'm gonna fold it halfway and then sew everything on like that. So I'm gonna start with this side. Before I start sewing, I'm just gonna bobby pin things in place just so it'll be easier for me. I don't have to worry about like doing too many things at once with trying to hold the weft up and trying to sew. So I'm just gonna bobby pin. So this first layer of hair is gonna go around the perimeter. I'm gonna grab the needle, so I'm just gonna go under, just because going through the weft can weaken it over time and cause more shedding, and under the braid like that. And then I'm not just gonna pull it through, because if I pull it through, that's not gonna do anything. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to open up the thread, if I can find it, like that, and then loop the needle through like that. And then I'm gonna do that again, put the needle up through, and then I'm gonna loop it again, but I'm not gonna open it since there's already a loop created. So I'm just gonna loop it like that, and pull it through. And then I just continue sewing, and then once the thread runs out, I just cut it off, tie it like 2 or 3 times just to make sure it's extra secure, and then I cut off the thread. And ideally you want the thread to last you much longer. That was just for demonstration purposes. Then I just continue doing the same exact process, and it's important that for like at least this perimeter track that you are sewing under the braid, so that whenever the wind blows and you won't be able to see the braid underneath. So then as I am approaching the back where I have those tucked in braids, I am sewing onto multiple braids at once, just so those tucked in braids can stay in place. And as I am sewing them in place, I take out the bobby pins that were once holding them. And then I just continue the same exact process as I go through, and then once I reach the end of the perimeter, I just fold the weft over instead of cutting it, because cutting it can lead to shedding and it makes it harder to reuse. And then so here I've already reached the end of a weft and I started a new one. So double wefting makes this process go by a lot faster, because as you just saw, one bundle of hair, just like I finished it really quickly. So then in order to continue to fill in the back, instead of going all the way up like we did for the first row for the perimeter, you're just going to go up like maybe halfway and then fold it over just to fill in that back area. So you're not going up all the way on each side, you're just going up however much you want to, and then folding it over to fill in the back, and then eventually you'll just get higher and higher. So this is after I finished 2 bundles, and I'm currently on the 3rd bundle, just doing the same exact thing. And you're just going to continue this process until you reach the top, and you're not going to sew onto those 2 braids that you have going straight back, because those are the braids that you are going to use to crochet. So once you have finished sewing on the weft, you just cut it off and make sure to tie off the ends, and that's how it looks. So once you're done sewing, you will start the crocheting no leave out portion. So I went ahead and did the crochet onto one of the braids. So I'm just going to show you how I did that by crocheting onto this braid now. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your wefted here, and you can see that I've already cut off of this wefted here, but that's all you're going to do is cut off from the wefted here, and this is the hair that you will use to crochet. So once you've cut off the piece that you will use for your sewing, this piece is kind of big. I'm gonna make it just a tad bit smaller. I think a size like this is pretty good. What you're gonna do is you're gonna grab your crochet needle, because you're gonna need a crochet needle for this, and then instead of going putting the crochet needle down from this way, you want to make sure that you're going up from under the braid, because that's where the knot will sit. Because with this method, you're like covering up the knot, so you don't want to make the knot come up from the top. So same thing with this side, you don't want to put the crochet needle from this way. You want to put the crochet needle up from underneath this way. So going into how I do it, I just get the crochet needle, and then I go up this way, and then I get the hair. And then so if you're used to normal crocheting, let me just take this out real quick so I can tell you about this real quick. If you have crocheted your hair in the past, you know that the hair comes bent like halfway, or you bend it yourself and you crochet it halfway. But you don't want to do that whenever you're doing this method, because then your hair will only be half as long, and then you'll have like a whole layer of hair that's just really short. So whenever you're doing this method, you're bending it from like the very top, so you don't lose all of that length. So whenever you're doing the hair, you put the needle up through, and then you attach it from the top like that, and then you pull it through. So then you have this little loop here, and then you're going to put your fingers through that loop, and then you're going to grab onto the shorter piece of here and put that through the loop. You don't want to put this longer piece through the loop because that's the piece that you want to fall over the knot. So then you're just going to pull like that, and there you have your knot. This here, as you can tell, it doesn't slip, but if you are using silkier hair, be aware that you probably will have problems with slipping, which can be annoying, but with coarser hair like this, it pretty much doesn't really slip at all. I mean, every once in a while it will slip and you'll just have to redo it, but just take note of that if you're using silkier hair, you will probably have problems with slipping. So yeah, it might stick up a little bit at first, but just leave it and it'll come down and go into place like that. So then you're just going to continue doing the same thing over and over again. As you can tell, I didn't start from the very beginning, so I'm just going to go back and fill in that spot from the beginning, doing the same thing, using my crochet needle to go up from under. And you don't want to put the crochet needle up as diagonally as I did, because as I later realized, that just makes the knot harder to cover up. Grabbing a piece of hair from the top and then putting it in that loop, closing the latch and pulling it through. I'm grabbing that loop and putting my fingers through it, and then finding that smaller piece. Did I lose it? Okay, no, it's right there. Finding that smaller piece and then pulling it through. Like that. Then you're just going to continue going through into the back. So I've already cut off a bunch of hair, so I'm just going to continue to grab from this here. You can cut it as you go just so you don't accidentally cut off too much hair, but I already have this hair cut off that I'll just be taking pieces about this size to use. So yeah, I'm just going to continue and looping the hair through, pulling it. Gotta be careful that you don't like lose. It gets easy to lose your loops and stuff. And then grabbing the smaller piece, not the longer piece, pulling it to tie, and then letting the longer piece fall over. And this hair is definitely a lot easier to work with than the curly hair that I tried, that I first used this method on. Just because this hair is so coarse, it doesn't really slip that much. It does slip a little bit whenever I was doing this side. I did have problems with slipping every once in a while, but for the most part it stays pretty much in place the whole time. And I'm able to use pretty big chunks, so this process goes by super fast. And I like it better that you're using the same hair to crochet as you used for the rest of your sewing, because I mean, you could, I know people don't like to waste hair by cutting it off, especially since virgin hair can be expensive, but I do think it's better to just use the same hair so that you're completely sure that it will match. I mean, if you find like synthetic hair or cheaper hair that matches the hair that you use for your sewing pretty well, go for it. But for me, it's just easier to just use the same hair that I've already used for the rest of my sewing. But you can do whatever you want, really. But this hair that I'm using is the kinky straight hair from Rosa Queen Hair Products, and yes, it does work without slipping too much. Honestly, don't even remember the last time I had leave out. I haven't worn a sew-in with leave out in such a long time. I have been doing like other protective styling like braids too, but yeah, all of my hair has been pretty much tucked away completely for a really long time, which has been really nice. And I also don't have to buy a closure, so that's also really nice. I'm still trying to learn how to use a closure. Once I learn how to use a closure and I master it, I will make a tutorial on that. But for now, this is like my go-to method. And for this entire install, I used only this much here left over. Once you're finished, feel free to go back and fill in any spaces that you may have missed. I did go back and straighten it just because I felt like it looked a little bit too poofy. Let me know if you found this video helpful, and if it was helpful, feel free to subscribe. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Since I'm black, my hair just doesn't grow as fast. Not true at all.